Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another video for EVE Echoes. Now, first things first, I am still out at Masuna Fishing Camp, so if there are any audio difficulties in this video, please do accept my apologies. If you're interested in knowing more about Masuna, by the way, I will put a link up on screen at the top here, and in the description below. I have been putting out sort of like little video blogs of my life here in Zimbabwe. If you're interested in that kind of thing, might be something worth checking out. Anyway, it is Thursday, which means it's time for another developer Q&A. For those who aren't aware, every Thursday, the EVE Echoes developers at NetEase take 4 questions that have been posed by the community, answer them, and then post that response to the EVE Echoes official Twitter account at EVE Echoes. And again, if you are on Twitter, do check me out at CPT Benzie. Link is in the description below as well if you fancy coming and find me there. Now, that said, I know that not everyone has access to Twitter and not everyone wants access to Twitter, so each week I go over these responses and I give my personal thoughts and opinions on them and talk about how that may affect EVE Echoes. If you enjoy these videos, there is a whole playlist of them so that you can get involved and see all the kinds of crazy stuff that should be coming to EVE Echoes at some point in the near future. Finally, if you do have a pressing question you'd like to see answered yourself, there is a link in the description down below that will take you through to the Google form where you can ask the developers these questions yourself, and if your question is chosen to be answered, you will receive a month of Omega, which I think is pretty sweet. Anyway, that said and done then, let's jump into the questions. So, first of all, for the developer Q&A of the week, the 7th of July through to the 13th of July. Crikey, we're that far in the year already. Can we get an option in the fleet drop-down menu that will allow us to approach a fleet member? You have warp to, follow, etc. This would allow easier fleet nav. Now, Lance.dot responds to this one. Our concern is that this feature will be abused by scripts and bots because it would make this action too easy to execute. This type of action may also lead to easier ship losses, which are not caused by players themselves. So as to avoid serious issues that could arise from this, we will not consider adding this option in the near future. And I get where they're coming from here. If you are on the same grid as someone, they can set, a follow me, and so you anchor to them and approach them. But having the ability to just align to someone from elsewhere, that's really dangerous. It means you can put a whole fleet of mining bots out there, start them doing what they're going to do, and have them aligned to something in the distance to instantly warp off from there. There's all kinds of little abuses that this can do. I'm not going to go into full details of it here, but I'm just glad to see that Lance.dot basically has said no. We're not going to do that. The standard fleet commands are enough, and I do believe they are. I'll be honest, I've never thought that we needed an approach. When someone sort of hits a follow me, you can do that, or you can manually do it. Again, I do think that there needs to be a fine line between automating this game and making things easier. I think anything that makes the game easier to play is a good thing. I think things that take you out of the game and mean that you just you sign up to the fleet, and once you've been accepted, you just hit follow. And crikey, can you imagine a point where, I'm not saying this is where this question is going, by the way, but can you imagine a point where basically once you've joined fleet, you just kind of accept follow, and you'll follow the rest of the fleet to the destination, you'll automatically lock onto their targets, and you'll automatically open fire, at which point what's the point in playing the game? Now, there's a fine line. That's obviously the extreme end of that, but the more of these systems get asked for, the closer we get to that line, and I'm glad that this is something that the EVE Echoes developers are very aware of themselves, and they're ensuring they do not cross that line. Moving on, are there plans to add haulers for planetary resources, or a feature allowing players to compress the resources? And now you understand why I put the Wreath 2 as the image for this one. Sorry, it's just a Wreath, not a Wreath 2, just the Wreath. Why I put the Wreath as an image for this one. Thank you for the suggestion, says Nero. We looked into this and believe that the planetary resource could be transported using standard industrial ships or freighters. We understand that you are seeking a safer and faster way of delivering, but as transportation is an integral part of the overall game experience, we have no immediate plans on changing it. And again, I kind of get this. I've seen people ask and say, well, okay, we've got the Mammoth and the Wreath that have the special ore holds for mining, bringing compressed and standard ores around. We have the Cryos and the Nereus line of ships that can move minerals around, the reprocessed ores. Why not something that can move planetary production around? And I'll be completely honest, there's a part of me that sits there and goes, yeah, why isn't there? Like, that would be the third logical choice, but I also understand why not. these don't tend to take up that much space. I mean, heck, I run a Capsuleer outpost and I fuel a Corporation Citadel as well. And I do that with a couple of alts, all with different fuels set up in nearby systems. And all I use for that is literally a Covert Ops frigate, not even an Explorer frigate, just the standard Tech 5 Covert Ops. And that's enough to fly out, pick it up, turn around and bring it back. And I know that we're talking about going from your base in Nullsec all the way up to Jita with this kind of stuff, but again, there is plenty of space in the standard cargo hold. If you've got a Mammoth, yes, okay, it's got an ore hold, a hold dedicated that can only carry ore and compressed ore, but yeah, you can't put the PI in there. But do you really need an entire ship for that? Like, how much PI are you hauling here? And at that point, I would say, well, yeah, that's then why we have freighters. If you've got that much stuff that you need to move from A to B, then yeah, use a freighter. But Benzie, freighters are slow and ponderous, and they're not covered by insurance anymore. They're too risky to use. Well, yes, that's why you get a fleet to do it. Oh, but I can't afford to pay a fleet to transport. Crikey, how terrible is your alliance or corporation that they are literally charging for the possibility of a PvP engagement? To me, the idea of someone undocking a Fenrir and doing 30 jumps to Hisec in it, with a fleet of us all around running as an escort, is a really exciting gameplay opportunity. And if your alliance can't see that, well, they're the ones missing out, you know? I think that's a lot of fun, and as Nero says here, that's an integral part of the overall game. It's not meant to be easy to transport loads of stuff from A to B. It's why space is so big in EVE. If you want to, be moving loads of stuff to Jita, it's worth setting up base close to Jita. If you're 30 jumps away, either do it in a big run or do it in lots of small little runs. How much PI are you really taking? As I said, if you can take it in something like a Wreath or, a Sigil 2 or something like that, go for it. Anyway, moving on to the third question. Do you plan on moving normal encounter missions, not storyline, to Hisec? Encounters don't have such impact on economy, but really helpful for new or PvE-minded players for making ISK. Now, immediately, I've got a response at the back of my head, but I'm going to hold it and we're going to read what Melos says. Yes, we plan on moving Tech 6 and below encounter missions to Hisec sometime in August. And there we go. Melos has answered that question for me and allowed me to exhale slowly. Now, basically, I really don't want to sound like I don't care, but I'm sick and tired of people saying, oh, I hate the fact that the big expensive missions are all in low-sec. I'm not talking storyline, I'm talking about encounters. If you open up the news encounters, you will get some that are, say, a certain amount of ISK and they're based in Hisec, and then some that are considerably more, often with a gold name, that are based in low-sec. And that's the point. That is literally the point there. At each tech level, you have ones that are in Hisec and in low-sec. So if you're looking at hard missions, any of the ones that are tech level 9 are based in low-sec and give much more reward financially. The tech 8 ones are all Hisec. At advanced, tech 6 are Hisec, and tech 7 are low-sec. And that, to me, makes sense. You've got an option there of going Hisec or low-sec for your different missions, and I like that. Again, if you get to the point where you take everything out of low-sec and you just move everything to Hisec, then you negate the purpose of low-sec, which is the entire point of the scanning update. Like, we had a situation where Hisec and low-sec were basically the same. There was no real difference. Before scanning, there was no real difference between Hisec and low-sec. You went from gate to safe point to gate, and so on and so forth, and there was just no difference. Whereas now, if you're in low-sec, yeah, there's a big difference, and people are aware of that. Now, if you then took the whole thing of, taking all encounters out of low-sec and putting them all in high-sec, except for storyline missions, there's going to be no one ever in low-sec because there's no content there. And if there's no content, then there's going to be no one doing it. Storyline missions on their own are not sufficient content, because let's be honest, there is a small group of people who run storyline missions, and they do so in things like a Dominix, which just don't really care that PvP is happening around them. That Dominix just sits there with its drones and does what it's going to do, at which point low-sec just becomes Dominix just Dominic's pilots all over the place, and you lose that whole PvP aspect and things. I do seriously need to sit down and actually do a video on why PvP is such an integral part of the EVE experience, but hey, that's another video for another time. The point I'm getting at here is I 100% agree with Melos on this, that moving the Tech 6 and lower all to Hisec is excellent, because that means that new players just starting the game can do so completely safely. I do kind of hope they add some low-sec content for those players as well, because at Tech level 6, I was jumping out and around and trying my luck at some PvP in places like Tama. If there's no reason to even try it, well, you know, there's people missing out on a big aspect of the game there. But again, maybe that's just me as the filthy pirate that I am. But I like the fact that they are moving tier 6 and below into Hisec, as that does give people a much more gentle start and kind of suggests that tier 7 is where PvP really begins. I don't know, let me know your thoughts on that one in the comment section below. I'm torn on it. I like that it's a safety net, but at the same time I feel like it's denying people access, or denying people a gateway into PvP. Final question then, nice to see an event in the form of a battle pass has been added, but since EVE Echoes is a community-based game, can we expect corporation events where you battle other corporations with targets like killing NPCs or mine, and show up with your corporation on a ranking page in the near future? I'm assuming that's supposed to be. Show up with your corporation on a ranking page in the near future. That would be pretty cool. Melos again says, we encourage corporations to organise their own activities and events in nullsec. We do think that having a type of leaderboard that could potentially be based on corporations, individuals or alliances is a great idea, so we will discuss internally how to design this before implementing it. And yeah, I'm all for this. Like, look, EVE Online has an open API. You can go in and you can design your own little apps and hook-ins and things. And there is one called Z Killboard. And Z Killboard is basically that. It's a leaderboard for PvP. It shows all kinds of stuff that's really, really cool. Now, with me playing games like Infinite Lagrange, one thing I've noticed recently is there are a lot of things that are in EVE Echoes that aren't in other games, and there are a lot of things in other games that aren't in EVE Echoes. And something like this, like a leaderboard, would be a really cool thing to have in-game. Rather than relying on an external API and website, actually having that hooked into the game itself, I think would be really cool, and it adds a layer of notoriety. If you're going through nullsec or lowsec, and a name comes up in local that you recognize from a killboard that you've seen in-game, that adds an extra layer of awesomeness. It makes the world feel real, and it makes that situation much scarier. When you see the guy who is #1 on that leaderboard jump into your low-sec system while you're running an encounter, that is usually a strong indicator that you need to move. But then there's the flip side of that as well, that if you're the top of the leaderboard, suddenly you're not going to be able to have fights because everyone's going to be running from you at every opportunity if they recognize you. And there's kind of that ebb and flow there. And I'm not against it and I'm not for it either. I do think having this kind of thing in game would be really cool. I really do. I also think that perhaps, I don't know, here's a little bit of a curveball. Perhaps people shouldn't actually have their names appear in local until they're on the same grid as you. Now, that's an interesting point. The reason I say this is because in Void, we've got a couple of known PI thieves and a couple of known pilots that will come and harass us in space. And after 3 or 4 engagements, we know what ships they're flying. So it's a case of, oh, here's so-and-so, he's going to be in a Condor Interceptor. Right, okay, I know which ship I need to undock to take him out. And is that really fair on him? That's a lot of information just to get from someone's name. I kind of think that when someone jumps into system, it should probably just show their alliance or their corporation and the allegiance. I think the red, the blue, the green, that kind of color coding is still important. But the actual name, I think that should only matter if you either scan them or you're on grid with them. That's personal thoughts. Again, let me know your thoughts and opinions on that one in the comment section. I've thought this for a long time, that when someone crops up in local, it should be just, a question mark sort of thing with a standing, whether they're blue or whether they're grey or whether they're red or whatever, but not their actual name, because the name can give away way too much information, I think. I don't know, let me know your thoughts and opinions on that one. What do you think about having a killboard and a leaderboard in game here? Would you like to see which alliance is smashing the ever-living daylights out of each other? Would you like to know which player is the most notorious in the entire system, in the entire cluster for PvP kills, that kind of thing? What are the benefits and what are the downsides of that to you? Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. Some interesting questions this week. I think that's pretty much all my thoughts and opinions on it, though. I'm quite excited about the idea here that the devs have turned around and said, no, we're not going to give, easy botting opportunities. We're keeping the game away from that AFK play. That we're not getting a planetary resources cruiser, hauler. I'm still really excited for the arena. When we talk about PvP, I'm really excited for that, and that seems an obvious place to have like a leaderboard as well. I really cannot wait to tell you guys about the arena. It's so good. There's so much cool stuff going on in that arena that I can't wait to be able to share with you. But hey, that's coming soon. Otherwise, folks, remember to ask your questions by clicking on the link in the description below, heading through to the Google form, asking your questions. If your question is chosen, you will receive a month of Omega. Otherwise, thanks for watching right the way to the end on this one. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.